This spotlight is all about exit planning. Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. The segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. Joining me on this segment is Martha Sullivan. She's with the Family Business Consulting Group. Martha, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. It's a delight to talk with you today.
Tell us a little bit about your work and specifically who are the types of folks that you specialize in working with?
Thank you. Yes, the work that I do is centered around working with family businesses, as you might imagine, and helping them work through their plans and preparation for transitioning ownership and leadership of their family businesses. And so a lot of the work that I do has to do with helping business owners get ready, both in terms of their thinking around succession, but also making sure that the company itself is at a state where it can transfer leadership and still survive and thrive without the leading owners in position.
Tell us a little bit about these owners because they're great at growing their business every day, growth, growth, growth. But when it comes to planning for an exit, do they even know where to start? Tell me about them.
Generally, it is a very scary thought for most business owners, and they don't know where to start. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have a circle of advisors around them. They're very focused on driving profits and driving sales, and very often they don't think about driving value of their business and making sure that their company, kind of like your house, is always ready for sale, that it's ready for somebody else to move into. And if they're doing that every step along the way and they're thinking with value and ultimate transition in mind, they're building a stronger platform for the time when they are ready to move on. Otherwise, we find, unfortunately, very often people are just kicking the can down the road and they're caught flat-footed.
I know a lot of folks aren't really familiar with the role of an exit planning advisor. Can you kind of
Yeah.
give us a 10,000-foot view of of what that's about and how you help business owners with their transitions?
Absolutely. So, an exit planning advisor is really helping business owners see the long game and integrate a holistic approach for their future, the future of their company as well as them personally. So, in my role, I am independent. I don't have any skin in the game in terms of whether you ultimately want to transition it to your next generation, or you want to sell it outright because you want to move on and invest in another company. But I help you look at the picture in terms of, are you meeting what you need to do to meet your financial goals, your personal financial goals, your business aspirations, where you want to take the company and ultimately exit it with, and marrying all those moving parts and pieces, because there's a ton of them between family ownership and actual successful operation of the company.
In regards to exit planning, do you find that business owners have any, preconceived notions, or are there any myths or misconceptions revolving around exit planning that people, have in their mind that you might want to dispel?
I think the biggest myth is that exit planning is only done when you're ready to hang up your spurs. And that's just, again, that's kicking the can down the road. And that's just kind of foolish thinking. It takes, generally speaking, if you want to sell your company, it takes at least 9 to 18 months to go through the sale process ultimately. But if that company isn't ready for prime time, and most companies are not, 80% of companies do not sell. You're already 2 years out. If you have work that you need to do to get it ready and make it more transferable, that is less dependent on the current owner or other factors that impede saleability, you need to be thinking about it easily 5 years before you think reasonably you might want to um, retire or move on to something else. So I like to think about it in terms of as I said, having a house that's always ready to sell, because you never know when the good humor truck is going to come by and you're going to be faced with having to make that tough decision and leave your company before necessarily you planned.
80% going unsold is a pretty surprising number. What would you
Yeah.
say is the biggest pitfall, or what are some of the big pitfalls or mistakes you see owners making that might sabotage them from selling their company?
They don't understand business valuation. I spend a lot of time with my clients helping them understand what drives value. It's not just profitability. There's more to it than that. But I also I believe that they don't look at it from the buyer's point of view. They don't look at their company objectively and say, ooh, that's actually riskier than I thought it would be. Would I invest in my company today if I were an objective, uninvolved party? If you can step into the shoes of the buyer and see your company through that lens, you learn so much about yourself and the company, as well as the opportunities that you may be leaving on the table at the time. But they have this disconnect because we're so close to our businesses, we can't see the forest for the trees. And when we get caught up in, well, my baby is the prettiest, when in fact, maybe I mean, it's lovely. The child's lovely, but it's just not going to win the pageant. Um, Owners get defensive and scared. The other piece where it derails is the owners haven't done the work themselves to be ready to let go.
Martha, what inspired you to get into this field specifically and help business owners with their exit planning? How did you get started?
Oh, thank you for that question. I love that one. I actually have worked in two different family businesses throughout my career. One was as a controller, the other was as a CFO in a turnaround situation. And so I really fell in love with working with family businesses. But at the same time, I also saw how business owners weren't prepared. In one of those instances, the owners faced a personal and professional crisis all at once, and ultimately we didn't have to sell the company, but if we had to, it would not have been a good outcome for them. Ultimately, it would have been pennies on the dollar. And watching that family and those entrepreneurs go through that scenario, it's like I've got these skills in business and accounting and financial turnarounds, that it shouldn't be that way. And so I really wanted to help business owners through this point of transitioning the ownership so they can go on to their next adventure. There's still other things in everybody we want to achieve than what we're doing today. So let's make sure that we're moving from one as graciously as the other and exiting stage right.
Martha, before I ask you my last question, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is important to share with business owners considering exiting now or in the near future?
I think that the only other aspect that I know we really focus on at the Family Business Consulting Group is making sure that we are honoring the entire system or the entire enterprise. That I think every business in many ways, if you're a business owner, you have a family business, because what happens in your business impacts your family very directly and in a very real, tangible way, more so than when you're just an employee. So having a balance between the family system, the ownership systems, and the business systems is the best way to set yourself up for a successful transition honoring what's important to you as a family, as an ownership group, and the company.
For owners listening that would like to speak with you, Martha, how can they find you and connect?
Absolutely. The best way to find me and connect is through the Family Business Consulting Group. The website is www.thefbcg.com. And feel free to shoot me an email there at sullivan@thefbcg.com. And I'd love to talk with your audience and explore how I can support them.
Martha, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was a delightful time talking with you today.
That was Martha Sullivan. She's with the Family Business Consulting Group, and this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.